Live from Daytona Beach, Florida, bringing a voice to America's forgotten working class, speaking the truth for the America that Washington left behind, making America great again, 1 hour at a time. This is Trump Talk Live, where we the people have the right voice, presented by the Republican Party of Volusia County. Now, here are your hosts, Vic Baker and Tony Ledbetter.
Greetings, fellow American patriot Trumpublicans, and welcome to the Democrat dossier Backfire, Clinton Uranium One sellout, FBI and Mueller takedown, exquisite irony, flake folding, tax reform budget, and Medal of Honor episode of Trump Talk Live, the home of fearless truth-telling about our determined visionary President Donald J. Trump and his mission to drain that festering D.C. swamp, defeat the backstabbing RINOS, and put more hard-earned dollars back in the bank accounts of hard-working, middle-class Americans. Wow! Another jaw-dropping turning of the tables in D.C. For more than a year, Democrats have been beating the Russian collusion drum, claiming with not a shred of evidence that Donald Trump's campaign somehow colluded with the Kremlin to steal the American election away from poor Hillary. Well, that myth has come up empty. They tried to smear our president with that phony Russian dossier. Even rat rhino John McCain got into the act, putting the put-up job in the hands of cover-up Comey, who used the bundle of lies to get warrants to spy on Team Trump. Comey even put the ex-spy author of the fraudulent dossier on the FBI payroll. Trump knew the truth would come out eventually, and the floodgates opened this week with the Washington Post. Yes, you heard me, the Washington Post, headlining the damning evidence. Hillary and the DNC paid for that phony dossier to smear Trump. How is that not a crime? Now, how is that not treason? Since the lies came from a Russian operative, you want to talk about Russian collusion now, Hill? You're not out of the woods yet, Hillary. And when we put what happened in front of a grand jury, you're going to get 20 all right. You're not going to get elected in 20. You'll probably do 20 to life. But that's not all, friends. The Uranium One scandal is going radioactive, threatening to contaminate Hillary, Mueller, Obama, Holder, Lynch, and so many more. President Trump has freed a confidential FBI informant to spill the beans to Congress about how then FBI Director Mueller spiked an investigation of widespread Russian bribery. That cleared the way for Obama and then Secretary of State Clinton to okay a deal to sell 20% of America's uranium rights to a company controlled by Vlad Putin. Bill got $500,000 for a 20-minute speech. How about that for an hourly wage, kids? And somehow more than $140 million got laundered through Canada and found its way into Clinton Foundation coffers. Watergate was a case of jaywalking compared to this sale of American security to the highest bidder. How is that not outright treason, folks? Anything they tried to pin on Trump is trivial compared to the biggest political scandal in American history. Hillary's media minions are still trying to downplay this and cover for her, but it won't work. The smell is too rank. The truth will out. So, Jeff Flake is standing up to Trump by picking up his rhino chips and retiring from the Senate. Does it have anything to do with the fact that this McCain protege has plummeted to 18% in the Arizona polls? Don't let the Senate door hit you on the way out, Flake. And remember when the RINOs said that Bannon wasn't going to have any clout with the voters? Ask Luther Strange, Bob Corker, and now Jeff Flake. Others should quake at the mention of his name. Bannon is 3-0. Trump Nation will drain the swamp one by one. The House has passed the Senate's $4 trillion budget, paving the way now for reconciliation and real tax relief. President Trump calls it the middle-class miracle. We call it the beginning of a new American renaissance. Scandalized Democrats and their Hollywood henchmen will be pushed to the sidelines, reduced to finger-wagging and more embarrassing disclosures of their own rank hypocrisy. Trump Talk Live comes to you live from the studios of WNDB 93.5 FM, 1150 AM in Daytona Beach. You can also listen online by going to TrumpTalkLive.com. We invite you to watch our web stream on the Volusia County Republican Facebook page or by going to YouTube and searching Trump Talk Live in quotes on the Vic Baker channel. Our thanks to Volusia County TAR's Chairman Duncan DeMarche, manning the graphic controls for our webcast, with assistance from his fellow crew members, Teenage Republicans Ian Escalante and Malcolm Swaggerty. I'm your fearless Trumpublican truth teller, Vic Baker, hosting the show with a man who stays awake nights trying to figure out how to eliminate every Democrat from elective office in Florida and the USA. Volusia County Republican Chairman Tony Ledbetter. Tony.
Thank you, Vic. Yeah, I do. I do wake up every day wanting to figure out how to get rid of all the Democrats. I don't listen to them. I don't talk to them because I just assume that everything coming out of their mouth is lies. But it's been, this last week or 10 days, it's been like trying to drink water out of a fire hose. Everything is happening. It's positive with the tax reform, and Flake and Cork are gone, and the budget passed. The Russian collusion is now pointed at Hillary, not our commander-in-chief. The new IRS chief that just came out today, he's fixing to replace, the crook that's running the IRS. You got URANIUM one, and he said many times early on that we were going to get so tired of winning, and we're winning a lot. So we have a lot to talk about. So what's up?
Okay, turn up the audio on one of those other channels there. Clinton campaign, DNC paid for research that led to Russian dossier. Slide up that slider there so they can hear us. Okay, and there we go. Okay, we've got to fix the audio. Okay. The Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee helped fund research that resulted in a now famous dossier containing allegations about President Trump's connections to Russia and possible coordination between his campaign and the Kremlin, according to people familiar with the matter, says the Washington Post. And Mark Elias, the lawyer who denied it all along, is now saying, oh, well, yeah, it happened. So let's listen to President Trump commenting about the new developments.
Well, I think it's very sad what they've done with this fake dossier. It was made up, and I understand they paid a tremendous amount of money, and Hillary Clinton always denied it. The Democrats always denied it. And now only because it's going to come out in a court case, they said, yes, they did it, they admitted it, and they're embarrassed by it. But I think it's a disgrace. It's just really a very sad commentary on politics in this case.
And that's what he said on his way to Marine One when he was on the way to another trip to Dallas, I think, at the time yesterday. Okay, so that's the Washington Post has spilled the beans, and look, it's going to be a lot more of the same. Earlier this year, BuzzFeed broke that shocking story that nobody else would touch because it was so nasty, so full of obscene fiction that was made up. We understand the DNC invested about $9 million between Hillary and the DNC in this Fusion One fiction that started the whole thing ball rolling against Trump, but it was all basis of lies. And the president had a further comment on Marine 10.
The whole Russian thing is what it's turned out to be. This was the Democrats coming up with an excuse for losing an election. It's an election that's very hard for a Democrat to lose because the Electoral College is set in such a way that it's very hard to lose that election for a Democrat. They lost it very badly and very easily. I mean, you look at the votes, it was 306 to what, 223 or something. They lost it by a lot. They didn't know what to say, so they made up the whole Russia hoax. Now it's turning out that the hoax is turned around, and you look at what's happened with Russia, and you look at the uranium deal, and you look at the fake dossier, so that's turned around.
Well, okay, let's go back to the idea that, Rhino Republican John McCain, who's got a burn against Trump like nothing going. Let's look at a picture of him. This article says Rhino stooge John McCain delivered the Trump dossier to the FBI for investigation. As Kristen Taylor reported earlier on the Gateway Pundit, the Washington Post article claims the 2016 presidential campaign of Hillary Clinton and Democratic National Committee paid for the Fusion DPS dossier. The Post reported the Clinton campaign and DNC lawyer Mark Elias and his law firm Perkins Cole paid Fusion GPS to continue researching Trump after a Republican donor who originally funded the research pulled out in April of 2016. And initially, you should know, they keep saying the Republicans started this, Tony. It wasn't the Republicans that started it. It was one Republican candidate that was doing Oppo research on Trump. It had nothing to do with this dossier. And that's the lie that they're trying to tell you now. Well, sworn Donald Trump enemy John McCain admitted Wednesday that he passed the dossier of claims of a Russian blackmail plot against the president-elect. He passed them on to the FBI. And now on to Comey. Comey used the FBI Clinton-funded phony Trump dossier to obtain a FISA warrant to spy on the Trump team. Do you remember on March 4th of this year when Trump said Obama's administration, or Obama, is spying on Mike Ames?
Yeah.
Spying. Well, they were.
Came out, yeah.
They were. And the Post had reported the Clinton campaign and the whole thing, it's all coming out again. Now, FBI Director James Comey cited the dossier in some of his briefings with lawmakers in recent weeks as one of the information sources used by his bureau to bolster its probe. U.S. officials briefed on the investigation. The secret court that oversees the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act granted the FBI a warrant to monitor the communications of Carter Page based on a tissue of lies. Now, Byron York says after the Trump dossier revelation, the FBI is next in the crosshairs. Let's look at the FBI. Investigators looking at the so-called Trump dossier were not surprised when the news broke. It's, and it's like, it's incredible, Tony. And the FBI's political meddling should mean something else. Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller was the head of the FBI, and we'll get into uranium one in a moment.
During the uranium one
thing. And he didn't do anything but, I guess, spike the case, didn't tell anybody about the findings, didn't recommend against this uranium one deal. So how is it he's going to, in any way, sit in judgment on President Trump?
Yeah, Mueller's definitely got to go. I mean, the entire top probably 4 or 5 people in the FBI needs to be eliminated because they're all Democrats.
No, that's not. No, higher. There's another Mueller there that we're talking about. Okay, that other Mueller graphic that's on there. Mueller has the legal obligation to recuse himself and should be, it's in order, disbarred, prosecuted, and punished, according to Greg Jarrett. Greg Jarrett of Fox News, who's also an attorney, says Robert Mueller has a serious conflict of interest that should disqualify him from serving as a special counsel. He's had a long and close relationship with someone who will surely become a pivotal witness, James Comey. Jarrett defines that statute regarding conflicts of interest with special counsels. The law governing the special counsel specifically prohibits him from serving if he has a conflict of interest in the case. The rule has been interpreted to mean even if the appearance of a conflict is sufficient for disqualification. Now, it's almost beyond that. He has a problem, Mueller. He has a disqualifying conflict of interest involving a large part of his work. It involves a choice between investigating or relying on former FBI Director James Comey, a longtime close friend. Ideally, he'll recognize that and resign. If he doesn't, the Attorney General should appoint another special prosecutor to clean up this mess. Now, the Uranium One case, which is breaking wide open, red hot, high on the Geiger counters. 7 things you need to know about the Uranium One case. Peter Schweitzer broke the Uranium One scandal. We're going to get into that in a moment, but it seems the clock is getting away from us, so we got to get to a break, and we'll come back with the Uranium One story right after this.
Your voice can be heard loud and clear right here on Trump Talk Live. Our local number is 239-0033. You can call us toll-free from anywhere in the USA at 800-927-0033. Stay with us for more fearless truth-telling on Trump Talk Live, making America great again.
DaytonaHelpWanted.com salutes the employee of the month, the one employee you can't live without. The others, let's just call them Dave.
Dave, are you stealing from the vending machine?
No, Mr. Employee of the Month.
Well, your desk is littered with like hundreds of snacks.
I merely exposed a loophole by reaching my arm through the flap thingy. Does that sound like stealing to you?
Yes.
Granola bar?
If you don't mind hiring Daves, go to the national job boards. They may be free, but trust us, they'll cost you. We make it easy to post a job, and it's local, so you won't get spammed by faraway job seekers. DaytonaHelpWanted.com. Local jobs that work.
Listen closely, because it may be some time before you hear us say this again. Fields Volvo Cars of Daytona Beach is having an end-of-model year sell-off. Every remaining new 2017 Volvo will be sold for prices you may not see again for some time. Most 2017s are discounted as much as $12,000. It's time for some good news, and this is it. It's the end-of-model year sell-off at Fields Volvo Cars of Daytona Beach, located in the Daytona Auto Mall. Go to fieldsvolvocarsofdaytonabeach.com. This is one you do not want to miss. Offer ends 9/31/17. Excludes all XC90s.
Your voice can be heard loud and clear right here on Trump Talk Live. Our local number is 239-0033. You can call us toll-free from anywhere in the USA at 800-927-0033.
Welcome back, Trumpublicans. Okay, 7 things you need to know about Uranium One. Peter Schweitzer broke the Uranium One scandal some time ago with his book, Clinton Cash, the untold story of how and why foreign governments and businesses helped make Bill and Hillary rich. Number 2, the New York Times confirmed the scandal in 2015, confirmed Schweitzer's Uranium One revelations in a 4,000-word front-page story by a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter. So it's not a fiction. The FBI, number 3, uncovered evidence that Russian money was funneled to the Clinton Foundation. As The Hill reported last week, ahead of the deal, the FBI had uncovered substantial evidence of Russian nuclear industry officials were engaged in bribery, kickbacks, extortion, and money laundering. 4, Congress is now investigating. 5, Bill Clinton was paid $500,000 for a 20-minute speech in Moscow. Some job, huh? And number 6, the Clinton Foundation took big bucks from uranium investors. The Clinton Foundation received millions of dollars in investment, in a pledge for $100 million more from a Canadian mining financier whose company merged with Uranium One. Senate Republicans, number 7, want a gag order lifted. It's already been lifted. Trump has done that. So it's out there. WikiLeaks shows that Clinton's new Uranium One was a major scandal in 2015. The informant has been cleared, as we said. The president has cleared the informant to testify before Congress. And boy, are we going to hear something there. Grassley, Chuck Grassley, chairman of Judiciary, Senate Judiciary. He's called on a new special prosecutor just for this. And today, Paul Ryan talked about Uranium One, number 2.
It is our job under Article 1 of the Constitution, the legislative branch of government, to conduct full and thorough oversight over the executive branch. That is a really important responsibility for Congress. This is why we're so frustrated to have learned through the media aspects about this investigation that we've been asking for documents from the FBI for months. And so since yesterday morning, the FBI got in touch with us yesterday afternoon, and they have informed us that they will comply with our document requests and that they will provide the documents Congress has been asking for by next week, and we expect the FBI to honor that commitment. The difference is we have a president named Trump who told them to comply. We've got a president who wants to get to the bottom. It's a disgrace that they've had to beat up on the FBI to get them to release information. And but like I said, that's the Senate's the first swamp that's got to be drained, and the FBI is the second swamp that's got to be drained. Okay, now Chairman Nunes of the House Intelligence Committee came out today, this week, along with Ron DeSantis and Peter King, and they made some statements about this investigation, what they're getting to the bottom of it. Let's start with Nunes.
We're not going to jump to any conclusions at this time, but one of the things, as you know, that we're concerned about is whether or not there was an FBI investigation. Was there a DOJ investigation? And if so, why was Congress not informed of this matter? That's Nunes. And then we talk to Ron DeSantis, who's on the House Oversight Committee, giving his take on it.
We do have a witness who is a confidential informant who wants to talk about his role in this, and we're in contact with the Justice Department to release him from a non-disclosure agreement. If that doesn't work out in timely fashion, then we obviously would be able to subpoena him. You know, on the Oversight Committee, particularly my subcommittee, we're going to be focusing on how the interagency process worked in this. We don't think that it worked out very well, so we have jurisdiction over the various national security agencies, and we want to get as much information as we can, and so we can see what happened. Okay, so that's Ron DeSantis. Also, Peter King of the House Intelligence Committee. Let's try this. The House Intelligence Committee Chairman Intelligence Committee Peter King said he signed a letter in 2010 asking then Treasury Secretary Geithner about this odd deal to sell 20% of U.S. uranium rights.
Raising very, very real concerns about why we would allow a Russian-owned company to get access to 20% of America's uranium supply. There are any number of reasons, objections we raised, questions we raised, and it was brought to the highest levels because I got a letter in response from Treasury Secretary Geithner, who was on the CFIUS committee, and saying that this was getting full scrutiny. So this was brought to the highest levels of the Obama administration, including the Treasury Secretary.
including the Treasury Secretary. And then House Intel Chair Devin Nunes says this is a separate matter from this whole Russian collusion delusion.
Well, the current Russian investigation is about the election. This is more about uranium and whether or not government actually functioned properly or not. So, currently you have people out there saying they didn't know, which that raises a whole set of questions, because if CFIUS didn't know, but you have Secretary Geithner sending a letter saying that he knew, acknowledging Mr. King's letter, I think it raises a whole lot of questions. Look, it's possible maybe there was no FBI or DOJ investigation going on. That's possible. We're not going to jump to any conclusions, but we're going to try to get the facts.
That's Devin Nunes. Now, Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy, who was here a few years ago for the Lincoln Day dinner.
Yeah, the Bulldog, Trey Gowdy.
He's a pit bull, and he is going after James Comey. He's got some serious questions about his decision to clear Mrs. Clinton before his investigation was over.
Well, one question is, how did all this happen without congressional approval? I mean, how do we sell something like this? I mean, this is treason. There's no difference in this and say going to they could have gone into Fort Knox and sold 25% of our gold. They should be in jail. They should be put in jail for treason. They had no business selling assets of our country.
Absolutely. Now, getting back to the emails, Comey decided in a memo in May that he was going to clear Clinton, and then 2 months later, after the investigation was concluded, he did what he said he was going to do. So Comey was either a psychic or he was fixing the case on behalf of Loretta Lynch and Obama. So let's hear what Trey Gowdy wants to know from Mr. Comey.
I think the most recent new thing is the allegation that Director Comey or the Bureau may have made up their mind in May of 2016, whereas they announced their decision in July. So they interviewed 24 witnesses after they had already made up their minds. That's the allegation, but it's more than that. There were Democrats that were really unhappy with the Department of Justice last fall. There were Republicans that were unhappy earlier in the year, and that's the one entity that everyone has to have confidence in. Even if you disagree with the decisions that are reached, you have to understand those decisions, and you have to have confidence that they were apolitical. And the Department of Justice is not above scrutiny, and they're not above review. I have great respect for them, but they're not above scrutiny. In 2016, in my opinion, left a lot of unanswered questions for the department.
That's true. Now, of course, if you listen to Hillary, who still doesn't know what happened, Hillary...
She's still wandering around in the woods.
Well, that's right. Well, here she is wandering around the woods saying this whole thing's a big smoke screen. Now, cut three.
That's a really good question.
Go to cut three.
I would say it's the same baloney they've been peddling for years, and there's been no credible evidence by anyone. In fact, it's been debunked repeatedly and will continue to be debunked.
Well, I would tell Secretary Clinton and Mr. Conyers and Mr. Cummings, Republicans don't get to write the headlines. We don't get to decide what the media covers and what they don't cover. God knows they've been covering Russia since January. I spent all day in a skiff interviewing witnesses related to the Russia investigation. So I don't know where Mr. Conyers or Mr. Cummings or Secretary Clinton were today, but I know where I was, which is investigating allegations of collusion. So I'm at peace with what I'm doing, but Congress is actually capable of doing more than one investigation at a time. And there was a time when Democrats did not think Jim Comey was the second coming of Christ. Remember, last fall, Harry Reid wanted him prosecuted for a Hatch Act violation.
Sure do. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So Trey puts it good.
Lock her up.
Now, on the committee with Trey Gowdy is our Congressman, Ron DeSantis, soon to be a candidate for governor. But in the meantime, he's on the House Oversight Committee, and he wants to know also about Mr. Comey's odd behavior. But we won't get into that. We'll save some time. Let's go back to talking about the Russian dossier, cut two. He wants to know more about this whole thing financed by Hillary's campaign and the DNC.
Well, I'll tell you, it's just bizarre. I mean, the media spent so much time on Trump, Russia, so-called collusion. Still, many months later, no evidence of that. But if you look, not only with the Uranium One, but then in this instance, how the Democrats have really worked with Russian nationals for a variety of reasons. And this is something that people affiliated with Fusion GPS denied repeatedly. And it turns out they weren't telling the American people the truth. They were involved with this.
Now, DeSantis says this whole matter is mudding the role of Mueller as a special prosecutor. And, who knows where his investigation is going or not going based on all the things he seems to have missed up to now.
I don't know what they're telling Mueller. Quite frankly, I don't know what the scope of his investigation is because it wasn't really clear from the beginning when he was appointed. So he very well may be in it. I think that's been a problem with the Mueller investigation. I don't think it's focused.
Well, okay. It may get better focus coming up soon.
Yeah,
now,
because of Uranium Run. I mean, Mueller he's got to go.
Yeah, this clearly indicates that Mueller's hands are dirty in this whole matter. Now, also, at the same time this is going on, Mueller has opened his criminal investigation to expand into looking into Tony Podesta.
Good.
You know who Tony Podesta is? John Podesta's brother, and they're in a consulting firm that did lobbying on behalf of the Ukraine. Gosh, I thought it was illegal to do that stuff. But anyhow, Mueller's looking into Tony Podesta. Well, now, why is Manafort being targeted? Because he was partners in a venture with Tony Podesta.
With Tony Podesta, right, yeah.
So Manafort, not so much because of his Trump connections, but because of his connections to Democrats, is in trouble.
Collusion with the Hillary.
The whole thing is going to be egg on the face of the Democrats, not the Republicans. Now, I think we're going to save a little time, and we're going to come back and talk about Jeff Flake and the slow, painful death of the rhino. That's right. The rhino is becoming the rhino is an endangered species in the United States. It is becoming extinct, and there is no law to protect them.
It's going to be extinct in the Republican Party,
They stand up on principle and bang their fists and say, "I'm standing on principle, therefore I'm walking out the door because I'm afraid of a fight. Goodbye." Well,
Take
we'll be
your
back.
principle with you, which you don't have.
We'll be back in a moment with the folding of Jeff Flake.
Your voice can be heard loud and clear right here on Trump Talk Live. Our local number is 239-0033. You can call us toll-free from anywhere in the USA at 800-927-0033. Stay with us for information you'll never get from the left-wing media, right here on Trump Talk Live, where the deplorables are ignored no more.
Are you nearing eligibility for Medicare benefits? Then you know now is an important time in your life. Medicare can be a complicated puzzle. The wrong choice can cost you money, and you may be locked into the plan until the annual enrollment period. And the right choice may save you money and maximize your Medicare benefits all year long. Let the Health Markets Insurance Agency help you. With one free phone call, a licensed insurance agent will help you find a Medicare plan that's right for your medical needs and budget. Call now to learn more. 800-821-4480. 800-821-4480. If you're now eligible for Medicare, call today to discuss your options. 800-821-4480. 800-821-4480. Health Markets Insurance Agency is a DBA or assumed name of InSphere Insurance Solutions Incorporated, which is an authorized insurance agency in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Not all agents are licensed to sell all products. Service and product availability varies by state.
Your voice can be heard loud and clear right here on Trump Talk Live. Our local number is 239-0033. You can call us toll-free from anywhere in the USA at 800-927-0033.
Welcome back. Jeff Flake announced this week that he's going to retire from the U.S. Senate after one term. Jeff Flake was facing a fierce primary opposition from Dr. Kelly Ward, who put up a good race against John McCain last year and came pretty close to beating him if she didn't have another Republican in the race to pull votes away from her. Yep. Well, she's a physician and a military wife and a mom of three people and 3 kids, and she has put up 27% in the poll above Jeff Flake. Jeff Flake's approval rating in Arizona is 18%. So, of course, as in the case of all such cowards, he stands on principle and cuts and runs. Cuts and run. He's going to cut and run. He's going to wag his finger at Trump all the way out the exit door, but Jeff Flake is going to be history, and here's what he had to say on the floor of the Senate this week.
When we remain silent and fail to act, when we know that silence and inaction is the wrong thing to do because of political considerations, because we might make enemies, because we might alienate the base, because we might provoke a primary challenge, because ad infinitum, ad nauseum, when we submit to those considerations in spite of what should be greater considerations and imperatives in defense of our institutions and our liberty, we dishonor our principles and forsake our obligations.
Well, okay, so is this the way you stand up by quitting? Because you can't fight Trump by not being in the Senate, I guess. So I don't know what you're going to do, Flake, but you're going back to Arizona to find another job. And he said, therefore, I'm quitting because I'll get my butt kicked in 2018 election as an ever-Trumper.
Because politics can make us silent when we should speak, and silence can equal complicity. I have children and grandchildren to answer to. And so, Mr. President, I will not be complicit or silent. I've decided that I would be better able to represent the people of Arizona and to better serve my country and my conscience by freeing myself of the political consideration that consumed far too much bandwidth and would cause me to compromise far too many principles. To that end, I am announcing today that my service in the Senate will conclude at the end of my term in early January 2019.
Maybe Hillary has some room in the woods.
Cry, baby.
Maybe Hillary has some room in the woods for you, Mr.
We can
Senator
nickname
Flake.
him the fastest rhino in the world. In and out in 6 years.
So on his way to Marine One, the media pack asked the President of the United States what he thought about that.
He was against me from before he ever knew me. He wrote a book about me before I ever met him, before I ever heard his name. His poll numbers in Arizona are so low that he couldn't win. And I don't blame him for leaving. I think he did the right thing for himself. But if you know, long before he ever knew me, during the campaign, even before the campaign, I mean, he came out with this horrible book. And I said, who is this guy? In fact, I remembered the first time I saw him on television, I had not really been, nobody knew me in terms of politics. But the first time I saw him on television, I said, I assume he's a Democrat. Is he a Democrat? They said he's a Republican. I said, that's impossible. So look, his poll numbers are terrible. He's done terribly for the great people of Arizona, a state that likes Donald Trump very much, as even you will admit. And he would have never won. In fact, even in the primary, he's way down in the primary.
Way down in the primary.
Way down.
Now, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is my new favorite White House press secretary of all time, she gave a very succinct answer when reporters asked her, cut 3 from Sarah.
I haven't spoken with him directly since the announcement by Senator Flake, but I think that based on previous statements and certainly based on the lack of support that he has from the people of Arizona, it's probably a good move.
Well, that's a pretty short statement, Sarah. Don't you have something more to say about it?
I think that we support the American people on this one. I think that the people both in Tennessee and Arizona supported this president, and I don't think that the numbers are in the favor of either of those two senators in their states, and so I think that this is probably the right decision.
Up next in the batter box is Dr. Kelly Ward. What does Dr. Kelly Ward have to say about Jeff Flake's fast exit?
We do need a positive way forward. We need new leadership, new GOP leadership in Washington, D.C., and I look forward to being a part of that class of 2019 who is putting the America First agenda out in the forefront in the policy that we create to secure the border, to stop illegal immigration, to get rid of Obamacare, to fix the tax code, to grow the economy, and to make sure our military is the strongest in the world so that we have peace through strength.
And the hand-wringing over Jeff Flake continued this week in Washington when reporters asked Speaker Paul Ryan, what do you have to say about this? What do you have to say about this, Mr. Speaker?
I don't think the American people care about that. You know what the American people want to see us do? Solve their problems. I don't think the American people want to see us up here yelling at each other. They want to see us fighting for them. The American people want results, and so that's what we're focused on. And I honestly believe the more unified we are in pursuing solutions that solve the American people's problems, that's what the people who sent us here to do. That's what they expect.
So the American people want you to do your job.
That's right, and Jeff Flake was just auditioning for his future spot as an MSNBC
And we've got a doctor
analyst.
now, a doctor surgically draining the swamp.
Why don't you thank our sponsors before we forget, Tony?
All right, sponsors, yeah, we've got Milne Roofing. His telephone number is 386-986-8688, Milne Roofing Company. South Daytona Storage and Office located at 2090 South Noble Road in South Daytona, Florida. We've got Marino's Pizza in DeLand. and she's located on Spring Garden Avenue. And, of course, we've got Sonia Morey, who is a State Farm agent. We have several people that advertised in our Lincoln Day program. You can see that online. We've got Berlin and Denny's Insurance. We've got WeatherGuard Hurricane Protection. And we appreciate all the people that advertised in our Lincoln Day book. Wally World Gallery, Stonewood Bar and Grill, the new one on LPGA. So, you know, reach out and support our Republican advertisers. Thank you.
Apologize to our Facebook and YouTube viewers. You may not have the audio from the proper source. We're working on that. We're going to redo this and replay it on Facebook later for you, so you'll get the full show. In the meantime, Steve Bannon. Remember, just not too long ago, even last week, Mitch McConnell was saying, oh, you know, Steve Bannon, you know, he's going to get a lot of the people elected. They're going to lose elections. Well, I'm not so sure. And let's take a look at the chart. What's the score now on Steve Bannon? Basher Bannon 3, Never Trumper 0.
That's right.
It's a shutout so far. He's got a hat trick already.
More to come.
And we got 4 on the list that we're looking at. 3 of them are gone already, or soon to be gone. Let's take a look at the picture of the 4 of them. We've got, what are the 4 of them? That's Keller, Flake, they're there, okay. Flake, Heller, Corker, and Strange. Strange, he's knocked off in the Alabama primary. Corker, he saw that, and he folded his tent. Flake, he realized that Kelly Ward was going to kick his butt, so he fled for the desert. The 4th one on the list is Dean Heller in Nevada, and he's in trouble too. He's another endangered rhino. As Trump said about Flake, he couldn't get elected dog catcher now. But the Trump agenda is moving forward at lightning speed, Tony.
Great, yeah.
The House today...
Winning.
The House today has... the House has approved the budget. The budget that the Senate approved. That means reconciliation allows the tax reform to get through with as little as 50 votes and a tiebreaker from Pence.
Yeah, because the Senate doesn't have the courage to run the Senate. They let the Democrats run the Senate because they won't do away with the filibuster.
Yeah, but we got past this. We got that past that with reconciliation. So the House has done that, and today, Paul Ryan explained what this all means.
And it's really good for taxpayers. Most importantly, this budget that we just passed in the House today brings us one step closer to historic tax reform. That means more jobs, fairer taxes, bigger paychecks for Americans. Too long, the American people have been living under a broken system where they see too little of their own hard-earned dollars. They spend hours and hours, they spend dollars just doing their taxes. So much time and money is wasted just complying with this incredibly complicated tax code, only to be rewarded by having a big chunk of their income taken and claimed by the government. It's unsustainable. People really are struggling in this country. So many people are just living paycheck to paycheck. Families deserve a break. Single moms who live paycheck to paycheck deserve a break. Parents working to send their kids to college, they deserve a break. The guy who just got a job a couple months ago who was unemployed for many months, he deserves a break. That's what this tax plan is all about.
He says it pretty succinctly, and the president, on his way to Marine One, added some comments of his own.
But I think to a large extent, in all due respect, I think the media causes a lot of it. Fake stories are being reported. A lot of bad things are being reported that aren't true. And, you know, I think to a certain extent, maybe I can blame the media, but politics is a rough business. There's no question about it. I will say this. I think the Republican Party has a pretty good unity. When I look at that room yesterday at lunch, and you know, and you reported on it very well, Kristen. I mean, you gave it a very good report. The fact is, there was tremendous unity in that room.
Now, at the White House briefing yesterday, John Roberts of Fox News asked Sarah Sanders if, and by the way, she started the briefing by walking in to the podium and looking up at all the reporters and saying, "Good afternoon," and waiting.
Sir, why is the president involved in this feud with Senator Corker? Is there some concern on Capitol Hill that what you should be focused on is getting your agenda of tax reform through, and that petty feuds like this just distract from the bigger issues? So why is the president engaging in this?
Look, the president is focused on doing this. That's what he spent the majority of his day talking about. He went to the Hill and met with Republican senators to talk about tax reform, to push his legislative agenda. That's what he's spending a good bit of this week doing, and we'll continue doing next week until we get the job done.
But why does he engage like this?
Look, you've got an individual in the president. He's a fighter. We've said it many times before. The people of this country didn't elect somebody to be weak. They elected somebody to be strong. And when he gets hit, he's going to hit back. And I think Senator Corker knows that. And he's, maybe trying to get a headline or two on his way out the door.
And here's John Roberts from Fox carrying the water for the Democrats.
Well, that's all right. He gave her some softballs to hit out of the park. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, here's something to see. Sarah walked in the room, as I was saying a moment ago, and she says, like, good afternoon, class, to the press corps, and they all responded. She's got these people whipped into shape. Let's listen to that, number one.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. Yeah. President Trump had a productive meeting at today's Republican Senate caucus. The president discussed the urgent need for the Senate to focus on cutting taxes for hardworking American families. We must also make American companies more competitive so they can create more jobs and boost wages for American workers. And we must simplify the burdensome tax code that is currently rigged in favor of the wealthy and well-connected. As the president tweeted this morning, the markets continue to hit historic highs and unemployment is at a 16-year low. There is a spirit of economic optimism sweeping the nation, but our economy cannot take off like it should unless we deliver historic tax cuts and reforms.
There you go from Sarah. Now, the Senate Judiciary Committee has cleared by a party line vote 2 more appellate judges for Trump. But there are a lot more judges waiting, along with hundreds of other appointments, and Sarah hit him up about that.
During the policy lunch, the president also discussed the urgent need for the Senate to confirm his slate of eminently qualified nominees, in spite of Democratic obstruction, so that they can get to work on behalf of the American people. The president will continue to work closely with the Senate to deliver on a legislative agenda that puts the interests of the American people first.
We'll be back with more Trump Talk Live about DACA, immigration, the Supreme Court and the travel ban, and Jimmy Carter coming to Donald Trump's defense. You got to hear this one when we return.
Your voice can be heard loud and clear right here on Trump Talk Live. Our local number is 239-0033. You can call us toll-free from anywhere in the USA at 800-927-0033. Stay tuned as we peel away those layers of liberal hypocrisy right here on Trump Talk Live, where the deplorables are ignored no more.
Let's talk about your plan, not your weekend plan. I'm talking about your how in the world am I going to afford to send my kid to college plan. If you don't have a good plan, listen closely, because Florida Prepaid does. We have college savings plans for every budget. Funds can be used for public or private schools, in-state or out. And every prepaid plan is guaranteed by the state of Florida. So what's your plan? Find one today at myfloridaprepaid.com, because starting is believing.
Are you near retirement age? Are you thinking about future living arrangements? Then Alliance Community in DeLand is the smart choice, with a maintenance-free lifestyle and the flexibility of options such as private homes, duplexes, assisted living, rehab, skilled nursing, or memory care. You don't have to wonder about your future care. Alliance Community in DeLand is designed to work with your individual lifestyle in mind. Plan early and take control of your future. Don't rely on someone else to decide for you. Visit alliancecommunity.org to learn more.
Your voice can be heard loud and clear right here on Trump Talk Live. Our local number is 239-0033. You can call us toll-free from anywhere in the USA at 800-927-0033.
Well, now as we get past all the feuds and we get to tax reform and one thing or another, something else that's in the mix, and that is what are you going to do about DACA, a DACA deal? Well, the Trump has made it very, very clear that you want DACA, you're not going to get it unless you give me some important things that I promised to my voters. Marine 1-8.
I'd love to do a DACA deal, but we have to get something very substantial for it, including the wall, including security, including a strong border. We have to be able to stop drugs from pouring into our nation.
President, by the way, declared a national health emergency on the opioid crisis. We're not getting into that because the media is currently trying to throw you off the scent of Hillary Clinton and all the crooked Democrats by talking all about that, so you don't have to talk about the dossier and Uranium One. So that's why we're not spending a lot of time on it. But Paul Ryan had something to say about negotiations on DACA and those other issues.
We want to work on a DACA solution in such a way that we don't have a DACA problem 5-10 years down the road. And that means we had to address border security and interior enforcement as a part of that. How and when we do that is an ongoing conversation that we're having. And so some selective incorrect leaks are not really a way to convey that message. We're talking with our members about all different kinds of solutions.
Which makes sense. Now, they asked him about Niger, and Trump gave him a good explanation. Now, the generals were very careful, and Mattis was careful. They can't talk too much about what they're really... he explained to them what the real world is all about right now, and I think this explains it well. Marine 6.
We are decimating ISIS in the Middle East. What's happening is they'll go to parts of Africa, they'll go to other places. When they get there, we meet them. It's a dangerous business, I have to say. It's a dangerous business. So what? No, I didn't. Not specifically. But I have generals that are great generals. These are great fighters. These are warriors. And I gave them authority to do what's right so that we win. That's the authority they have.
That's exactly what he said. Now, folks, it should not be a surprise to you that we put our military in harm's way to protect us. Some of them are going to get hurt. And that's what happens when you have soldiers like that. He also was asked about his call to the widow, who told ABC that she was upset by his call, which, by the way, those calls are never made unless they're prearranged and agreed to by the widow. And in fact, he recalls the substance of his call far differently than has been related by the widow or by that congresswoman in the cowboy hat.
I've never met her, but she sounds like a lovely lady. But I was extremely nice to her. I was extremely courteous, as I was to everyone else. You know, it's interesting. You folks have called many people that I spoke to. Everybody has said unbelievable good things about me, but you never report that.
They don't report that.
They keep wanting to report that the one lady that talks about, and I saw another interview where he said, look, he says, when I make these calls, all of this information is put in front of me so that he doesn't have to worry about remembering anything. The person's name is right there. And then, of course, one of the other three guys that died, the wife came out and did an interview, and it was a totally different story.
Well, this was just a case of a political setup, let's face it. Now, Jimmy Carter, Jimmy Carter, who before Obama was the worst president in modern American history, Jimmy Carter, who's not known as being a conservative, has come out and come to Trump's defense.
Yep.
I mean, can you believe it? I mean, really. Yep. Jimmy Carter says to the New York Times, he liked Trump's initiative reaching out to Saudi Arabia. He doesn't know Jared Kushner, but he's not totally dismissive of the idea that a son-in-law can succeed where others have failed. He's been in the Arab world, and the high esteem that they pay to members of one's own family can play a role. He expressed his interest in helping President Trump working on a solution to North Korea. That's not going to fly. But he said on Russia's influence in the 2016 election, Carter wasn't buying it. I don't think there's any evidence that what the Russians did changed any votes at all, he told Maureen Dowd. Finally, regarding the NFL controversy, he said, I think they ought to find a different way to object to demonstrate. I'd rather see all the players stand during the national anthem. And he said the media has given him the worst bum rap of any media to any president that he ever knew. Also, the Supreme Court has thrown out all the challenges to Trump's travel bans. The Hawaii judge's orders and the appellate court's blocking of the travel bans, which are kind of moot, but the Supreme Court's sending a signal. The president has the ultimate authority here. Stop playing mischief with the president's executive authority. Nearly 1.5 fewer million Americans are on food stamps now under Donald J. Trump.
Yep.
The economy is soaring. Unemployment's at record lows. The NFL stadiums where they don't kneel, they'll soon become the no football league.
No football
you know,
league.
if you refuse to stand for the
fans
anthem,
league.
if you refuse to stand for the anthem, we'll refuse to sit for the game. How about that? These stadiums are half empty. People aren't watching them anymore. And the cha-ching is going to go away real fast. That's the biggest fumble in history.
And the stations are trying to cover it up. You know, they don't want to they don't want to cover that anymore, so they go to commercials, and then they don't come back to the football game until they're ready for the kickoff.
Yeah, that's a cowardly way out. Now, to the opposite end of this, where we have real heroes, are people like Army Captain Gary Michael Rose of Watertown, New York, who enlisted after his first year of college and became a medic with the 5th Special Forces in Vietnam. Raised in Watertown, he learned from his father, the World War II veteran. He took his father's example much to heart. At age 22, he was a medic for the 5th Special Forces Group in the Vietnam War. And they talked about Operation Tailwind. And Operation Tailwind, cut number 2, the president picks up the story.
Their goal was to prevent the North Vietnamese from funneling weapons along the Ho Chi Minh Trail to use against our American troops. Helicopters dropped the unit into Laos. Before they even touched the ground, enemy fire struck 3 men. Once they landed in the clearing, they rushed to the jungle for much-needed cover. Soon another man was shot outside their defensive perimeter. Mike immediately rushed to his injured comrade, firing at the enemy as he ran. In the middle of the clearing, under the machine gun fire, Mike treated the wounded soldier. He shielded the man with his own body and carried him back to safety. But this was just the beginning of Mike's harrowing 4-day mission. Mike and his unit slashed through the dense jungle, dodged bullets, dodged explosives, dodged everything that you can dodge because they threw it all at him, and continuously returned fire as they moved deeper and deeper and deeper into enemy territory. Throughout the engagement, Mike rescued those in distress without any thought for his own safety. I will tell you, the people with him could not believe what they were witnessing. He crawled from one soldier to the next, offering words of encouragement as he tended to their wounds. On the second day, one of the Allied soldiers was shot outside their company perimeter. Again, Mike raced to the side of the soldier, exposing himself to constant fire. As bullets flew in every direction, Mike fired at the enemy with one arm while dragging the injured soldier back to the perimeter with the other. Soon after they returned to their unit, a rocket-propelled grenade exploded nearby and shot smoldering metal into Mike's back and into his leg. He was seriously, seriously wounded. The shrapnel left a gaping hole in Mike's foot. For the next 48 excruciating hours, he used a branch as a crutch and went on rescuing the wounded. Mike did not stop to eat, to sleep, or even to care for his own serious injury as he saved the lives of his fellow soldiers.
That was the story in part. Now, the end of the story was a helicopter came to rescue him. The helicopter crashed. He fell out of the helicopter, dragged himself back, and rescued all the men out of the helicopter. Now, that's what real American heroism is. If you don't stand for that kind of heroism, what kind of man are you? That's all I can say. What kind of American are you? He received the Medal of Honor from President Trump today. Quite late, because that happened 50 years ago plus.
Yep.
But this man deserved every bit of it. And there are dozens of men alive today because of this particular hero that would not have been alive to enjoy their families for all these years. And so that's the story of Trump Talk Live this week. We want to invite you to watch us on Facebook, and I promise you, if the audio wasn't right tonight, we'll fix it and get it back on Facebook so you can see the replay with audio and video, all the graphics that Duncan's put on nicely for the show. Tony, any final words?
Well, I say this every day. I thank God that President Trump is the president, and he is doing the right thing. He's draining the swamp, and I will never get to the point to where I think we're winning enough. We will keep winning. He will survive 4 years, and he'll get reelected, and we're going to have we're going to make America greater again. And so we appreciate you listening, and join us again next week.
And here's a goal for you. Here's a goal for you, everybody. we get Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton on the chain gang to help build the border wall. How's that sound?
Amen.
You know, we put them on the chain gang, and maybe Jeff
Yeah.
Flake can be out there and be a cheerleader in Arizona for that project. All these rhinos are going to drop like flies. Citizens for Trump has endorsed Kelly Ward in Arizona. They have endorsed Roy Moore in Alabama. And he's got a tough fight there, but he's going to win that election. And we're going to repopulate the Senate with people that are going to follow the Trump agenda.
And the Virginia governor's race is picking up. Gillespie today, I heard, he could be up 5 or 6 points. So stop listening to the polls and just go vote.
Well, if the polls say 5 or 6 points, it may be even better than that.
Yeah.
I will say that the man that's helping with that effort worked with you, Tony, here in Volusia County on the Trump effort, Steve Buckingham.
Steve Buckingham, right.
He's a rising star behind the scenes in the Republican National Committee. And
right. And Chris Cox from Bikers for Trump's up there.
Chris Cox is up there, and he was with us with Roger Stone last Friday in New Smyrna Beach. It was a great success. If you missed it, folks, 160 people saw him. A lot of people saw it on Facebook Live. Roger Stone was Rock'em Sock'em along with Chris Cox and Colonel Mike McAllister. So we have a lot going for you every week. We hope you'll look for us on the podcast. It's free on iTunes and Google Play. If you missed the show, you can listen to us anytime. And until next week, everybody, do what you can to make America great again.
Are you near retirement age? Are you thinking about future living arrangements? Then Alliance Community in DeLand is the smart choice, with a maintenance-free lifestyle and the flexibility of options such as private homes, duplexes, assisted living, rehab, skilled nursing, or memory care. You don't have to wonder about your future care. Alliance Community in DeLand is designed to work with your individual lifestyle in mind. Plan early and take control of your future. Don't rely on someone else to decide for you. Visit alliancecommunity.org to learn more.
You've been listening to Trump Talk Live, making America great again, 1 hour at a time. Follow us at Volusia County Republican Party on Facebook or go to our website, TrumpTalkLive.com for updates. Join your Trumpublican hosts, Vic Baker and Tony Ledbetter, for another fearless edition of Trump Talk Live next Thursday at 7 p.m. right here on WNDB 1150 AM and 93.5 FM. Trump Talk Live is presented each week by the Republican Party of Volusia County, where we, the people, have the right voice when it comes to defending America's founding values. In God we trust. In America we believe.
The Republican Executive Committee of Volusia County is responsible for the content of this advertising.